Hi, friends. There's a moment that happens, usually sometime after dinner. The kitchen is technically closed, you've already eaten, your body doesn't actually need anything else. And still, you find yourself back in the kitchen, opening the pantry, standing there longer than you planned, looking for something specific, something sweet, something crunchy, something that takes the edge off the day. Not because you're hungry, but because you don't want to sit with how you feel right now. And it's quiet, it's not a binge, it's not chaos, it's just enough to take the edge off for a minute. And afterward, you don't feel better. You feel a little more disconnected and a little more frustrated. And you have that quiet thought, why do I keep ending up here? If you've been here, this episode is for you. Welcome back to Your Relationships Are Keeping You Fat, the podcast where we look at the patterns shaping your health, your habits, and how you experience your body. I'm your host, Darla, and today we're looking at a moment that seems small, but is probably happening more often than you realize. And before we get into it, if you've ever stood in your kitchen, not hungry, but still looking for something, go hit follow, because what we're building in this season is going to help you understand why that keeps happening and what actually changes it. And this is one of the moments where if you understand what's driving it, everything starts to make more sense. Because this isn't random. This is something that your body has learned to repeat. And it tends to show up in very specific seasons of life. When you start dating someone new, your routine starts to look different. You're eating out more, you're spending more time together, and food becomes part of connection. And without really noticing it, your structure starts to loosen. Or when a husband comes home from deployment or long stretches away for work, everything starts to feel different. Schedules change, emotions are higher. There's a desire to reconnect, to enjoy, to celebrate. And food becomes a part of that experience. Or if you're a mom with young kids, you're in the kitchen all day, finishing bites off their plates, eating what's left so it doesn't go to waste, grabbing small things throughout the day. And by the end of the day, you've eaten more than you realize because none of it actually felt like a real meal. And none of that is a discipline issue. It's exposure, it's environment, it's repetition. And it usually builds after a day where you have been on for everyone else. You haven't had a second to yourself. Your brain has been making decisions all day, but your body hasn't actually been taken care of. So when you finally sit down, your body starts to catch up to everything that you pushed through. And instead of processing it, you reach for something to soften it because food is the fastest option. It's accessible, it's predictable, and in that moment, it works temporarily. And most of the time, it's not hunger. It's one of a few things: mental exhaustion, overstimulation, or a need for relief. This is relief eating. It's not hunger eating. And if you don't see that clearly, you'll keep trying to solve it with food. And when that keeps happening, that's where fat loss starts to feel harder. Not because of one moment, but because of how often that moment repeats across the week. This isn't a lack of control. This is exactly how your body is designed to respond when it's overstimulated and under-supported. It's a response that your body has learned to rely on. And as you're listening to this, you might already be thinking of someone who says, I'm not even hungry. I just want something. Or someone who finds themselves back in the kitchen at night trying to figure out why it keeps happening. So if that person came to mind, send this to them. Because sometimes hearing it explained this way is what finally makes it click. And if you're noticing that parts of this feel familiar for you too, this is where it becomes important to separate what you're feeling from what your body actually needs. Because what's happening in that moment isn't physical hunger. It doesn't sound like, I should probably eat something. It sounds like, I need something right now. I just want something sweet. I can't stop thinking about it. It shows up in your head, not your stomach. And it doesn't go away after a few bites because it was never about food. And there's a reason that it keeps happening. Because foods with sugar, artificial sweeteners, and highly processed snacks, they create a quick dopamine response. And that this feels better moment is your brain getting a reward signal. But over time, your brain adapts. So the same food doesn't feel as satisfying, which means you need more bites, more often, and more intensity to even get the same effect. But now it's not occasional, it's happening more frequently. And this is where it starts to affect fat loss directly because now you're eating in the moments that your body didn't actually need fuel. And those small repeated moments are what quietly keep your intake higher than you realize. So this is where that most women feel they're doing everything right, but nothing is changing. At the same time, those same foods affect your gut. They change the balance of bacteria, which can lead to bloating after meals, more sensitivity, inconsistent digestion. And when your gut is irritated, your body reacts faster and recovers slower. And your gut and brain are always communicating. So when your gut is off, your stress response becomes more active. Your body produces more cortisol, and cortisol does two important things here. It increases cravings for quick energy, and it makes your body more likely to hold on to stored fat. So now you're in a pattern where you're craving more, and your body is less likely to let go of stored body fat. And alcohol fits right into this. At the end of the day, it feels like an unwind. But it disrupts sleep, it affects blood sugar, and it can carry over into the next day, affecting how steady both your energy and decision making feel. So the next day, things can feel a little less clear and a little harder to navigate the same way that you normally would. And this is incredibly common, especially for women carrying a lot throughout the day. And the cycle continues. So, when you're standing in the pantry at night, this is a predictable response. It's a loop. Your brain is looking for relief, your gut is influencing how you feel, and your stress system is amplifying the signal, all leading you back to the same behavior. And it's not because you're doing something wrong, but because your body has learned this response. And the more often it happens, the harder it becomes to create steady fat loss. So instead of trying to override that in a moment or relying on more willpower to push through it, we start looking at what's shaping your decisions before you even get into that moment. Because if your environment stays the same, your behavior will keep following it. And this is where design comes in. Not more willpower, better design. Because willpower asks you to win in the moment, but design influences the moment before it happens. So this isn't about pushing more. It's about setting your life up so that your choices feel more supported. The highest level of discipline is when your life is structured in a way where your actions start to feel more natural. And that's what actually drives fat loss. Not perfect days, but repeatable patterns. Because when your environment is working with you, you're not negotiating with yourself all day. The decision has already been guided before you even have to think about it. And the fewer decisions that you have to win in the moment, the more predictable your behavior becomes over time. And this becomes even more important when your life seasons change because your environment isn't fixed. It changes with your season, your schedule, and your relationships. And when those things change, your behavior naturally follows. So instead of expecting yourself to do everything the same way, you start building a structure that fits the life you're actually living. Not by repeating the same routine, but by adjusting it based on what your life looks like right now. And this is where it becomes practical. And these are real life scenarios. I see this with my clients all the time, which is exactly why we need to talk about it here. Because this isn't happening in isolation, it's happening inside your real life, your relationships, your schedule, your day to day environment. If you're dating someone new, you're eating out more, your routine isn't as predictable. Meals are built around time together, not structure. And without realizing it, your day starts to revolve around that. So your approach becomes looking at menus ahead of time, choosing what feels supportive before you get there, and deciding how often you want to eat out during the week. Not restricting the experience, but staying aware inside it. If your partner comes home, everything starts to look different. The schedules change, the meals are shared again, and there's more connection, more time together. And in the middle of that, your usual rhythm gets replaced. So your approach becomes planning a few anchor meals during the week, keeping simple, supportive foods available, and deciding what your baseline looks like now. So you're not relying on the moment to figure it out every time. And if you're a mom, especially with younger kids, you're in the kitchen all day, finishing bites, eating off plates, grabbing things while standing. And by the end of the day, you don't actually know how much you've eaten because none of it felt like a real meal. So your approach becomes having your own plated meals, deciding that I only eat when I sit down, and keeping a go to snack ready so you're not grabbing things all day. Because grazing isn't about hunger, it's about being around food constantly. And this is where it all connects because what you're around all day, you will eventually respond to. And this is where your environment starts to play an even bigger role because your environment is quietly shaping your choices, whether you're thinking about it or not. So let's make this real. What's at eye level in your fridge? Is it prepped protein, cut fruit, something ready when you're actually hungry? Or is it food that you tend to skip? While the easier options are what you reach for without thinking. What's sitting on your counters? Because what you see repeatedly, you are more likely to reach for, especially at the end of a long day. Even the layout of your space matters. You sit down on the couch, and within 10 minutes, you're back in the kitchen. And it's not because you made a decision to eat, but because it's right there. So, this isn't about having more control. It's about understanding what you're exposed to all day and how often you're interacting with it. Because most of the choices aren't happening consciously. And it's not because your body suddenly became bad overnight, because your perception of your body changed. And that's where this conversation becomes really important because most women were never taught what's actually happening physiologically during these phases. What most women don't realize is that the body naturally fluctuates. You have water retention changes, inflammation changes, digestion changes, hormones change, and breast fullness changes, your stress levels change, your body is not static. And during certain phases, your digestion may slow down. Your body may hold on to more fluid. Your breast may feel swollen or tender. Your stomach may feel more distended. Your sleep can become lighter. Your recovery can feel worse. And stress can amplify all of it. Undereating can amplify it. Overtraining can amplify it. Poor sleep can amplify it. Emotional overload can amplify it. Sometimes women gain 3 to 7 pounds of temporary fluid fluctuation and emotionally experience it as a permanent body failure. That's the disconnect because visually it feels real. Your clothes feel different. Your rings fit differently. Your stomach feels different. Your face may look puffier. Your body may feel softer or heavier. So emotionally, it feels permanent. But temporary physiological fluctuation is not the same thing as failure, even though emotionally, that is not how most women experience it. Women are not just reacting to a bloated stomach. They're reacting to what they think that bloated stomach means about them. Because body image is rarely just about appearance. It's tied to worth, control, desirability, confidence, safety, identity, and especially for high-achieving women who are used to measuring safety through control, discipline, and productivity. So when the body suddenly feels unfamiliar, it can feel emotionally destabilizing very quickly. And now it feels like they're losing control of themselves too. And this is usually the phase where women start saying things like, I need to get my life together. I'm falling off. I've been so bad lately. And it's not because they actually failed, because their body stopped matching the version of themselves that they feel emotionally safest inside. The body changed and women turned it into a story about their worth. And that's the part that hurts. And modern culture reinforces this fear constantly. Social media makes this so much worse. Women compare their inflamed, exhausted, luteal phase body to someone else's vacation photo taken during their highest energy week of the month, or a posed photo under perfect lighting after a workout pump, good sleep, makeup, editing, and angles. Meanwhile, they're standing in their bathroom inflamed, exhausted, bloated, sleep-deprived, stressed out, and emotionally overstimulated, wondering why they don't look the same. Women compare their hormonally shifting body to someone else's perfectly timed photo. And that comparison becomes brutal emotionally. And eventually, that emotional weight starts affecting more than just body image. Your body doesn't respond to pressure the way you've been taught. It responds to how supported it feels. And when your approach looks like eating just enough to get by, pushing through workouts when you're already depleted, or going all day without a real break, your body experiences that as strain, not support. And over time, it starts to adjust to that, holding on to energy, slowing things down, and becoming less responsive to the effort that you're putting in. And this is where a lot of women get stuck because what they've been taught to do often creates the exact opposite of what their body needs. More intense workouts, cutting portions smaller and smaller, adding more when progress slows down. On the surface, it looks disciplined, but underneath it, your body is working overtime to keep up. You're running on coffee and holding it together through the day. So even though your effort is high, your body isn't in a position to respond to it. So instead of adapting, it starts conserving, holding on to stored energy, slowing recovery between your sessions, and making results feel slower, not more efficient. It's like trying to drive on an empty tank. You can press the gas harder, but the car won't go any faster until it actually has fuel. And this is where a lot of women start to feel confused because they are putting in effort, but their body is working with a different set of conditions. Hormones like estrogen and progesterone don't just change later in life, they begin to adjust earlier than most women expect. Sometimes as early as your mid 30s. And what that often feels like is feeling tired, but still wired at night, having less patience for stress than you used to, walking into a room and forgetting why you're there, or noticing changes in how your body stores fat, especially around your midsection. And alongside that, your body doesn't respond the way it once did. And this isn't just something that I see in clients. We know that ongoing stress paired with not eating enough to support your output can change how your body uses energy and how well it recovers. So, over time, your metabolism can gradually slow, and maintaining muscle takes more intention, which directly affects how your body uses and stores your energy day to day. So, if you're still using the same approach where you tighten restriction and you have high output with very little recovery, it can start to feel like you're putting in effort without seeing it reflected back in your body. And that's usually the moment where the doubt starts to creep in. But your body isn't broken, it's working with a different set of conditions now and responding accordingly. And when you start to see it that way, it opens the door to looking at your body a little differently. And this is where something like cycle awareness can be helpful, not as another set of rules to follow, but as a way to understand what your body is already moving through. Because your energy, your hunger, your recovery, they don't stay the same from one week to the next. There are times where you feel stronger, more energized, and more capable in your training. And then there are other times where you notice that your energy is lower, your patience is shorter, and it takes more to feel like yourself again. And when you expect those phases to feel the same, that's when your frustration starts to build. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your body is asking for something different. So instead of trying to force the same level of output, you start working with what's there. You lean in when your energy is available, and you ease back when your body is asking for more recovery. You add more nourishment instead of tightening your intake when your system is already carrying more load. And it's not to get it perfect, but to stay connected to what your body is telling you in real time. Because progress doesn't come from repeating the same routine every day. It comes from adjusting based on what your body can actually work with that week. And this goes beyond a monthly cycle. Some women have irregular cycles, some are in perimenopause, and some no longer cycle at all. But the principle remains the same. Your body still moves through rhythms. Energy rises and falls, your stress capacity changes, and your recovery needs vary. And when you start noticing those changes, your approach begins to reflect your real life instead of working against it. This is not more complicated, you're just more in tune. Your body isn't inconsistent, it's cyclical. And this is where many women get misled because a lot of what they've been taught to follow was never designed with their physiology in mind. Because most women begin treating their body like something that needs to be managed, something to fix, something to keep in line, something that only feels acceptable when it's improving. So the focus becomes what needs to change, what needs to be adjusted, what should be further along by now. And that shapes how you move throughout your day. You override hunger, you push through fatigue, and you expect more, even when your body is already stretched thin. Not because you don't care, but because you're trying to create a result. But your body doesn't experience that as support. It experiences it as a demand. And over time, that creates distance where you're asking your body to change without really hearing what it needs to do that. And that's where things start to feel disconnected because the more you try to control it, the less it works with you. But your body isn't something to manage, it's a partner. And it works very differently when it feels like you're working with it instead of against it. And this is where your internal dialogue comes in, because the way you speak to yourself shows up in how you treat your body throughout the day. If that voice sounds like, This isn't enough. I should be further along. I need to get this together. That tone carries into your actions. You keep your portion smaller, you skip meals to stay on track, and you push through workouts when your energy is already low. You ignore what your body is asking for because you're trying to close the gap. But your body doesn't interpret that as care, it reads it as demand. And over time, that changes how your body functions day to day. Your energy feels less steady, your recovery takes longer, and your hunger cues feel louder or harder to trust. And not because your body is working against you, but because it's adapting to how it's being treated. So, what if the reason that things feel stuck isn't your body, but the tone you've been operating from? So, instead of asking, why isn't my body changing? Ask, what is my body responding to right now? Because it is responding to how you're eating, to how much stress you're carrying, to how much recovery you're allowing. It's taking all of that into account, just not in the way you expected. And when you start to see it that way, your next step begins to make more sense. Not doing more, doing things differently. Because if your body is reacting to what it's been given, then the goal isn't to force better behavior. It's to change what your body is working with throughout the day. And this is where the focus starts to shift. It's not about forcing better choices. It's about changing what those choices are built on. Because willpower asks you to win in the moment, but design shapes what that moment looks like before you even get there. And this is what that looks like in real life. Adjusting when your energy dips instead of expecting the same level of output all day. Eating throughout the day so you're not trying to catch up at night. Creating space to recover instead of adding more to an already full schedule. Building in moments that help you slow down so your body isn't carrying the entire day into the evening. Because your body works best when it has enough fuel, enough recovery, and enough space to keep up with what you're asking of it. Before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to actually be in your body. Take a breath, not to fix anything, just to notice. Where are you holding tension right now? Your shoulders, your jaw, your chest? No need to change it. Just acknowledge that it's there. And instead of viewing your body as something that needs to be corrected, see if you can recognize it as something that's been trying to take care of you. Then ask, body, what are you trying to protect me from right now? You don't need a perfect answer. Just notice what comes up. And before you move on with your day, make one small promise. Not about weight, not about doing everything right. Just one action that gives your body what it's been missing today. So if this episode made you feel seen, share it with another woman. Because a lot of women are carrying shame for physiological experiences that they were never taught how to understand. And maybe that's the real shift this conversation is trying to create. Not teaching women to control their body harder, but helping them understand their body sooner. So as you move through this week, pay attention to the moments where your body starts feeling heavier emotionally. The mirror checking, the outfit changes, the panic, the self-criticism, the urge to tighten control. And before you turn those moments into proof that you failed, pause. Your body may not need punishment in that moment. Your body needs support, interpretation, and recovery. So stay connected to that. And I'll see you in the next episode.